Now, you, my friend, today, you are a bit worried about the green belt areas. What's concerning you?
Well, look, what really concerns me is that, of course, we need to build new houses and we need to build those as the right type of houses in the right locations. But that should not come at the expense of damaging the green belt. Labour have been very clear on their plans. They will ignore local opposition and will concrete over green belts. And that can have hugely detrimental impacts when we should be taking a brownfield first approach.
Yeah, I can understand a brownfield first approach, which is industrial land and whatever that needs to be reused. Well, what is grey field? What is a grey belt? What's that?
Well, I mean, that will be up to the government to determine that. But in my view, we should be definitely taking a brownfield first approach, making sure that if we need to use greenfield, we do that, but having done that after brownfield. But that should not come at the expense of developing on green belt, which, of course, has that special planning restriction as a policy on there to make sure that our communities stay as they are. And also we want to make sure that local residents are able to have their say when it comes to new development, which is not what the government are proposing. We have had a strategy where local neighbourhood development plans have been worked up by local parish councils and their local communities, setting out what they would like to see. But Labour's proposals seem to want to ignore that and will concrete over greenbelt planning restrictions that we have in place at the moment.
But the thing is, Robert, when you look at the previous plans, there was a lot of opposition. There's a lot of not in my backyard by letting local people decide on things as well. And despite what everybody says, there is an awful lot of green in this country, an awful lot, maybe too much. And we understand greenbelt, if it's old wooded trees, whatever, I can understand those being protected. Everybody can understand rivers being protected, whatever. But what about just green fields that are maybe just used for growing potatoes or whatever? Why can't they be built upon?
Well, my view is that we should be protecting our green belt land, which has that special planning designation, and we should be looking at brownfield first and then looking at greenfield if needs be. But, you know, if you come to my constituency, for example, we've had planning application after planning application after planning application approved for new housing with no focus on infrastructure being improved, and those planning approvals have been on greenfield land when, in the same locations, we've had plenty of empty brownfield sites. So there really needs to be this emphasis from government to local authorities that brownfield sites should be prioritised, that developers are given the tools that they need to be able to develop those brownfield sites first, because we are aware that there are additional cost implications for developing brownfield sites first. But the government needs to try and incentivise that, which is exactly what we were trying to do as the previous administration. We were almost on target with developing 1 million homes since the 2019 general election, 2.5 million homes since over the last Conservative administration. So it can work, but we need to make sure that we are not running roughshod over what local people want to see within their own communities.
Can I ask you about the situation in Hare Hills last night in Leeds? The streets there descended into chaos. We saw a bus that was torched, a police car pushed over, violence towards police officers there. What's your response to those scenes, considering your constituency is actually very close to the Hare Hills area?
Well, what we're seeing in Hare Hills is completely unacceptable. It is no one living within those communities should see that level of uproar happening on the streets. It's completely unacceptable, and we'll have to wait and see. You know, what was the trigger? I'm not quite sure what the trigger was of why these riots have taken place. But to see police vehicles being torched, being turned over, I think a bus had been been torched as well is completely unacceptable. And, West Yorkshire Police have my support in trying to deal with this situation. But what is also deeply frustrating is the level of complete lack of respect by those that have been carrying out the riots, from what I've seen from video footage via the media, to the police themselves. And unfortunately, this seems to be a narrative that has been developing over a number of years, where there has been complete disrespect to the law enforcers. And unfortunately, I've seen that at a much lower level in my constituency. But we have to make sure that the police have what they need, have the time now to find out what the trigger was. But what absolutely happened in Hare Hills is completely unacceptable.
Robbie, just before we let you go, I wanted to ask about the split in the Tory party, about the timetable of when a successor will be chosen to replace Rishi Sunak. There's reports that we may start to see that list or selecting a new leader next week. But there is a split, isn't there? One MP saying that the longer that you allow the Labour Party to go unchecked, the stronger they become. Other people saying that you need to take your time to find the right candidate who is in it for the long haul and can bring some unity to the party. What are your thoughts on the timetable?
Well, I think we can't get away from the fact that the Conservative Party has had a huge bruising on the back of the general election. We've lost a lot of good colleagues that had a huge amount of good skill sets in Parliament, but also in government. So we have to take time, in my view, to establish what went wrong, but also make sure that we get behind the right person that has that energy, that enthusiasm, that commitment for driving forward good Conservative values, that is able to hold the government to account over the years ahead. And in my view, we should take time to do that. And I think that a lot of colleagues think the same. We have the ability to do that. I don't believe the rules have been established for the new leadership contest. That will work its way through the system with the 1922 committee and the Conservative Party board. But once those rules are established, we'll see who comes forward with their leadership bids. But in my view, it's right that we get the right person that is able to lead the Conservative Party going forward, and that we take our time to do that.